Hello guys, I hope you're doing fine. Today's lesson it's gonna be about comparatives and superlatives. Let's start. We are going to learn what are comparatives and superlatives, how to use them, and the exceptions. Let's start with comparatives. What are comparatives? Comparatives are adjectives that compare only two things. Remember, only two things. This is very important. It's a clue point. For example, we can compare between looking TV series or cartoons, or we can compare between eating an ice cream or a popsicle. Do you want some tips? I'm gonna give you some tips. The first and most important, I already gave it to you. Comparatives only compare two things. Second tip. The second tip is that you must always use than. The word than, okay? Every time you are comparing in English. That's a tip. I'm gonna give you some examples. Number one, she's more beautiful than flowers. Example number two, going to the beach is better than going to the mountains. And example number three, I prefer soda than oranges. See, you always use the word than to compare. There is also another clue word, more. You are always going to find it when you are comparing. And the abbreviation for the word more, it is ER. You have to add always ER at the end of every adjective. And if, for example, the adjective is too short, you have to double the last letter. Then you would say, I was born first than my brother, so I am older than him. But what you cannot say is, I am more old than my brother. That is not correct. Now, imagine you are running a race against a friend, and suddenly you win. What are you going to say? I am faster than you. But what you cannot say is, I'm more fast than you. That's not correct. Now, we're going to start with superlatives. Superlatives are really easy because they compare more than two things. More than two things. For example, with this bunch of old people, we can compare who is the youngest, who is the tallest, and who is the shortest. And in superlatives, I can also give you some tips. Actually, they are pretty the same as the comparatives. For example, the first tip is that we always find the word most. And if we want to abbreviate the word, we have to add est at the end of every adjective. And if the adjective is way too short, we have to double the last letter. Let's set an example. Imagine again that you are in a race with a group of friends and unfortunately you don't win. So what are you going to say? I am the slowest runner. But what you cannot say, I am the most slow runner. That's not correct. Okay, here comes the tricky part, so pay attention. We're going to talk about the exceptions, okay? You have to memorize this like a rule, okay? When the adjective, for example, is too long, like for example, beautiful, difficult, or intelligent, we cannot add er or est. We have to use more or most. For example, the most beautiful, the most intelligent, the most difficult, and in comparative we have to use more difficult, more intelligent, or more beautiful. Or if the adjective describes an absolute state like perfect, unique, uniform, you cannot add er or est. It functions the same way as the long adjectives. You have to add more or most. And last but not least, you have to memorize by heart 5 different adjectives that do not obey any rule and are completely different. And those are good, bad, far, little, and many.